Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as we know that we are covering the parliament, alright, and these are the topics that we have scheduled for the discussion under this particular series, like the introduction part, organization of the parliament, composition of two houses, system of elections to Lok Sabha, duration of two houses, membership of parliament, presiding officers of parliament, leaders in parliament, sessions of parliament, devices of parliamentary proceedings, legislative procedure in parliament, joint sitting of two houses, budget in parliament, multifunctional role of parliament, ineffectiveness of parliamentary control, position of Raj Sabha, parliamentary privileges, and the sovereignty of the parliament. Okay, so these are the topics that we have scheduled for the discussion. Out of this, we have done with the introduction part, organization of parliament, composition of two houses, system of elections to the Lok Sabha, duration of two houses, and what we have been discussing. Basically, we have been discussing upon the membership of parliament. And these are the remaining topics, okay, that we are required to cover up in the upcoming and the further lectures. So that is the picture that we have created so far, sorry. Okay. So basically we had started from where we had left. So these are the cases, and basically you can say these are the constitutional provisions on which the seats of members could be vacant in the parliament. After this, there are certain points that we had left in the previous lecture. If a disqualified person is elected to the parliament, the constitution lays down no procedure to declare the election void. Okay, like the constitution only provides for the disqualification. All right, and if the person is disqualified but he's got elected to the parliament somehow, then constitutionally there is no provision to declare the constitution void. Basically, here the parliament uses his power, okay, which it had exercised by passing the Representation of the People Act 1951. So remember, in this case, constitution does not deal with anything. Basically, this is deal by the Representations of the People Act 1951. And this enables the High Court to declare an election void if a disqualified candidate is elected. But thereafter, there is an highest court of appeal, which is the Supreme Court. If the aggrieved party does not satisfy with the High Court decision, so they could challenge it in the Supreme Court. Okay. Thereafter, now we have the another topic, which is the oath or affirmation. Okay. Every member of either House of Parliament, before taking his seat in the House, is required to make an subscription to an oath or affirmation before the President or some person appointed by him for this purpose. In his oath or affirmation, Member of Parliament swears that he will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India. He will uphold the sovereignty and the integrity of this country, and he will faithfully discharge a duty upon which he is about to enter. Alright, like the duty of legislature. And second one is if he is holding any particular department or ministry. Alright, so whatsoever the duties implicated on him, he will discharge them with a faithful nature. Alright, so unless members takes the oath, he cannot vote and participate in the proceedings of House and does not become eligible to the parliamentary privileges and the immunities. It means that doesn't matter the person has got elected as a member of parliament. Doesn't matter until or unless the person takes the oath. All right, till he will not entitled to use parliamentary powers. A person is liable to a penalty of 500 rupees for each day he sits or votes as a member in the house in the following condition. Okay, like before taking and subscribing to the prescribed oath or affirmation. All right, like if he's, you can say if he has not taken the oath or affirmation and then he participate in the parliamentary things, then he is required to pay 500 rupees as a charge per day. When he knows that he is not qualified or that he is disqualified for his membership, but still he exercises his membership and try to be the part of the parliament. When he knows that he is prohibited from sitting or voting in the house by virtue of any parliamentary law, but still he sits or votes, then again the penalty will be applicable. After the oath and affirmation, the next thing that we have is the salaries and allowances. Membership of either House of Parliament are entitled to receive such salaries and allowances as may be determined by the Parliament. There is no provision of pension in the Constitution. Okay, so you can say the salaries and allowances depends upon the Constitution, not on the, depends upon the Parliament. Okay, not on the Constitution. The Constitution does not provide for the salaries and allowances and even for the pension to the parliamentary members, but it is decided by the Parliament. Okay. However, the Parliament has provided pension to the members. In 1954, the Parliament enacted the Salaries, Allowances and Pensions of Members of Parliament Act. Okay. Why? Because we had discussed that this power is basically, you can say, waits with the Parliament. Thereafter, that was the time period of 2018. The salaries of members were increased from 50,000 to 1 lakh rupees per month. The constituency allowance was increased from 45,000 to 70,000 per month, and the, you can say increase from 45,000 to 60,000 per month. Okay, so these were the changes which were introduced in 2018. Okay, thereafter, in earlier 2010, the daily allowance was increased from rupees 1,000 to 2,000 for each day of residence on duty. Okay, so these were the changes which you are required to see. And here remember one thing, like the question may be asked, in 2018, which areas were increased? So remember, the first area was salary per month. That was increased. Okay. Thereafter, another area was constituency. Allowances. Okay. They were increased. And the last one was office allowances. Or you can say office expenses allowances were increased. And if we talk about 2010, in 2010, basically the daily allowances of residents on duty was increased. From 1976, the members are also entitled to a pension on a graduated scale for each 5-year term as a member of either House of Parliament. Okay. Besides, they are provided with the traveling facilities. They are having the free accommodation, having the telephone, having the vehicle advance, having the medical facilities, and so on. So these are the allowances and privileges granted to the members of parliament. The salaries, and allowances of the speaker and the deputy speaker of Lok Sabha, okay, and the chairman and the deputy chairman of Raj Sabha also determined by the parliament. All right, they are charged on the consolidated fund of India, and thus they are not subject to the annual vote of parliament. Like we know, there is a provision of annual financial statement, okay, and basically this is in short known as the budget. All right, this is known as the budget. So basically we know whenever the budget presented in the parliament, so basically it shows two main things, like what will be the expenses and what will be the revenues. Okay, so these two things are mentioned in the budget, and these two things are subjected for the you can say the provisions for them are basically subjected for the discussions and the votings, especially the expenses part. All right, so if you look at here, the salaries, the allowances and all, they are also the expenses, but the expenses which are charged on the consolidated fund of India, these expenses are basically not subject to the annual voting during the passing of the budget. Okay, so you can say it is exempted provision for passing of expenses from annual votings. All right. Thereafter, it was in 1953 when the parliament enacted the allowances or salaries and allowances of officers of the parliament act. Okay. Remember, here we are talking about the officers, not about the members. So there is a difference. So under this act, the officer of parliaments were, you can say, benefited. So now we are required to know the meaning of officers of parliament, like whosoever is called as an officer of parliament. So basically the term officer of parliament means any of the following officers, like the chairman and the deputy chairman, okay, of the Raj Sabha, like the speaker and the deputy speaker of the Lok Sabha. So basically we can say officers of parliament are basically divided between the two houses, Rajya Sabha. Second one is the Lok Sabha. In Raj Sabha, chairperson, or deputy chairperson. In Lok Sabha, speaker or deputy speaker. All right. That's the thing. In 2018, the parliament increased the salary of chairman of Rajya Sabha from 1.25 lakhs to 4 lakhs per month. Okay, it means that the salaries were increased from 2018 in the case of chairman of the Rajya Sabha. Similarly, the other officers of the parliament, which means the speaker and the deputy speaker of Lok Sabha and deputy chairman of Rajya Sabha, are entitled to receive a salary per month at the same rate as are payable to the members of the parliament. Okay, so you can say only the chairman of Rajya Sabha will get the increased salary. Why? Because he is also the vice president of India. All right. Further, each officer of parliament, other than the chairman of Rajya Sabha, is entitled to receive a daily allowance for each day during the whole of his term at the same rate as is payable to the members of the parliament. It means that daily allowance is applicable to officers of parliament except chairman of Rajya Sabha. Why? Because his salary was already increased. All right. Also, each officer of parliament, other than the chairman of the Rajya Sabha, are entitled to receive a constituency allowance at the same rate as is payable to the members of parliament. Why? Because if we talk about the other members and the other officers, so they are also the members of parliament, and then they would be chosen to that positions. But when we talk about the chairperson, then we know he is already the vice president of India. All right. So that's why he is not entitled to receive the constituency allowance. All right. According to the same act, the sumptuary allowance is paid to the speaker and at the same rate is payable to the cabinet minister. It means that rupees 2000 per month. Likewise, the sumptuary allowance is paid to the deputy speaker of the Lok Sabha and the deputy chairman of the Rajya Sabha at the same minister as is payable to a minister of state, 1000 per month. Okay. Each house of parliament has its own presiding officers. Now, after the you can see the membership of parliament. Now we have the topic for presiding officer. All right. So there is a speaker and the deputy speaker for the Lok Sabha and chairman and the deputy chairman of the Rajya Sabha. All right. A panel of chairpersons for the Lok Sabha and a panel of vice chairpersons for the Rajya Sabha is also appointed. Okay. So these all together formed a base which we call as an presiding officers of parliament. Okay. So now first is the speaker of the Lok Sabha. So the first thing that we are going to see is the election manner and what is the tenure that he could hold the office. A speaker is elected by the Lok Sabha from amongst its members as soon as maybe after its first meeting. It means that if we talk about the Lok Sabha seats, we know there are 552 seats. And if we see the bifurcation for states, for union territories, for nomination. For states, there are 530 seats. For union territories, there are 20 seats. For nomination, there are 2 seats. Okay. So basically, first, all these seats will be filled by the process of general election, except the nomination case. And then these elected members will have their first sitting. Okay, all these members, not elected ones, all these members will have their first sitting, and then they will decide that who should be elected as a Speaker of the Lok Sabha. Whenever the office of Speaker falls vacant, the Lok Sabha elects another member to fill the vacancy. Alright, the date of election of the Speaker is fixed by the President. It means that they will, you can say, decide that who should volunteer for the election, and then the President, who is an integral part of Parliament, decides that what should be the date for the conquest of that particular election. Alright. Usually, the Speaker remains in office during the life of the Lok Sabha. It means that if we talk about the tenure of Lok Sabha, then we know it is for how many years? For 5 years as per the Constitution. And if we talk about the tenure of Rajya Sabha, it is for 6 years, and this is basically by the Representation of People Act 1951. Alright. So usually the Speaker remains in office during the, you can say that 5 years usually. However, he has to vacate his seat office earlier in any of the 3 following cases. Okay. Like if any of these cases implicated there, then he could vacate the seat before the 5 years. First, if he ceases to be a member of the Lok Sabha, because we had seen that he is elected amongst the Lok Sabha members. Second, if he resigns by writing to the Deputy Speaker. Okay, so remember, if we talk about the resignation of the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, then to whom he addresses his resignation? Deputy Speaker. Alright. Third, if he removed by the resolution passed by the majority of all, then the members of Lok Sabha, such a resolution can be moved only after 14 days advance notice. It means that due to some reason, the parliamentary members thinks that the Speaker is not capable to hold the office. So what will happen? That they will present, discuss, and pass the resolution. But this solution could only be provided after giving the 14 days advance notice. For example, if the resolution is to be provided on 14 January, then the notice must be given on 1st January. Okay, so at least there will be a 14 days gap, or you can say 14 days interval in presenting the notice and then starting the resolution. All right. Thereafter, when a resolution for the removal of the speaker is under consideration of the house, he cannot preside at the sitting of the house, though he may be present. Okay. Like, once the resolution was presented to remove him, okay, and the proceedings will start through discussion and all, then he will not be a presiding officer. Of Lok Sabha. Why? Because he is under uncertainty of getting removed. All right. Doesn't matter whether he was present in the house of that time or not, but he will not be considered as the presiding officer of the Lok Sabha. However, he can speak and take part in the proceedings of the house at such a time and vote in the first instance, so in the case of an equality of votes. All right. He should be noted here. So it should be noted here that whenever the Lok Sabha dissolves, the speaker does not vacate his office and continues till the newly elected Lok Sabha meet. Like we had discussed, whenever the Lok Sabha will dissolve, all the members have to resign. But the presiding officer of the Lok Sabha, it means the speaker of the Lok Sabha, who is also the member of parliament, will get a privilege that he is not required to provide the immediate resignation after the dissolution of the Lok Sabha, but he will hold his office till the new Lok Sabha meets and elect new presiding officer of Lok Sabha or speaker of Lok Sabha. All right. So that's the thing. So students, basically in this lecture, we have finished till here. In the next lecture, we will continue from here. Till then, just revise the facts and figures that all we have discussed in this lecture and be ready for the another lecture. With this note, let's end this lecture, and what we say